this is the history presentation that I give in my face-to-face class. It just gives you a little bit of background, and honestly, we barely touch the tip of the iceberg when it comes to computer history. So let's start with this guy. His name is Charles Babbage. He is known as the father of modern computing. He developed something called the difference engine in 1822. He also developed something called the analytical engine. His ideas were actually too advanced for the time period, but they were able to build it just a few years ago, and it actually worked and would have been the first working computer had he been able to successfully implement it. A lot of his ideas are still in use. This next fellow, his name is Herman Hollerith. He invented this tabulating machine that you see here. It used punch cards to tabulate the U.S. Census, and they did I want to say it was the 1890 census using his tabulating machines. And using these machines, they were able to calculate the census data in 2 years, which sounds like an awful lot of time until you realize that the 1880 census took 10 years to tabulate, or compute. So the significant improvement. He later hooked up with a guy named Tom Watson. His tabulating machine company became the company known as International Business Machines, or what we now know today as IBM. Mauchly and ECKERT worked on something called ENIAC. It was the first standalone general-purpose computer. This thing was huge. You could see all the cords and switches. It was basically the size of a city block. It had, I don't know how many vacuum tubes and switches and all of that. It was coded using the zeros and ones that we actually have in our computers today but never have to deal with. And it was originally developed for trajectory calculations for World War II, but since it wasn't finished in time, they were able to change the purpose for that, and hence it's being known as the first general-purpose computer. Grace Hopper was a computer pioneer. She did an awful lot of things with computers and was involved in a lot of technology. She's best known for developing COBOL, which was a higher order programming language. It got us away from, we went from zeros and ones to something called assembly language to COBOL, which was a more natural language way of programming, and they used a compiler to translate it. The image here on the left was from her diary. That's actually a moth taped to the page. The moth got on the relay, caused the computer to stop functioning, and is theorized to be where the term computer bug came from when you're talking with errors on computers. Jack Kilby invented the integrated circuit. This allowed our computers to get much smaller, replacing the vacuum tubes, and we were able to take the size of a computer down from a room to a desk. These were later shrunk down to be very small. Actually, at this, they replaced transistors, technically vacuum tubes. So transistors replaced vacuum tubes. Integrated circuits replaced transistors. We were able to get smaller, faster, and more reliable, which is the general trend in computing altogether. Douglas Engelbart came up with the concept of the computer mouse back in 1970 that led to our kind of point and click way of interfacing with our computers. SEYMOUR CRAY was the father of the supercomputer. Supercomputer is kind of the opposite direction that most of the rest of our technology has gone. A supercomputer is used for very processing-intensive jobs, long-range weather forecasting, space exploration, military modeling. They're typically one of a kind. They're very expensive, and they're used, let's say, a lot of research facilities, government organizations, universities, those sorts of things. Bill Gates and Paul Allen founded a little company called Microsoft back in 1975. They were in the right time in the right place. They actually ended up developing something called Microsoft DOS that went out with the first PCs that were on the market, and as I said, their company kind of took off from there. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were a couple of guys working out of their garage, developed something called the Apple computer. Apple's had its ups and downs since it was founded in 1976, but it's, I think, here to stay now. And finally, this guy, Tim Berners-Lee, founded the World Wide Web. His concepts of the hyperlinks and hypertext is what the World Wide Web is built on. And that's actually a picture of him at the the Olympics when they were in England. He was affiliated with that, and he appeared in I think it was the opening ceremonies. Anyway, so that is computer history in a nutshell. Like I said, tip of the iceberg there, but you can use what you learned in that presentation to answer the questions on the history matching. A non-video version is also posted.